Gus Goes to School. One day, Gus the ghost said, "I've had a lot of adventures. I think my ghost friends would like to read about them." He sat down at his ghostly typewriter and told Cora the cat and Mouse the mouse to be quiet. He began, "I am a ghost." G-O-S-T. Here's ghost, G-H-O-S-T. Then he wrote the story of his life and sent it to a publisher. The publisher sent it back with a note. "You have a very good story to tell. The trouble is, you can't spell." Gus saw red circles around ghost and other words. "What's wrong with G-O-S-T?" he demanded. Mouse didn't know and didn't care. Cora said maybe it's spelled G-O-A-S-T or G-O-E-S-T or G-O-W-S-T. Gus looked up those spellings. "Not in the dictionary." "Well, I am a ghost, and I've got to find out how to spell ghost." "Go to school," Cora advised. Gus put on his best flowered sheet, picked up his bang-clank equipment, and trudged off. He felt a little shy, so he asked Mouse to go too. Mouse was delighted. He'd heard about the delicious food in the lunchroom from his mouse friends. Cora stayed home to catch up on her sleep. Gus went to first grade. He asked Miss Flower, the teacher, how to spell ghost, but she couldn't hear ghostly language. He looked in books, but he couldn't find ghost. He sat down in a back seat and clanked a small clank to cheer himself up. Miss Flower heard the small clank, so she knew a ghost was there. "We have a ghost in the class," she said. "The ghost will have to pay attention and do his homework like everyone else." The words that are up on the chalkboard are house, mouse, fat, and cat. She gave the class words to learn, such as if, and but. "Ghost is the only word I want to spell," Gus thought. He didn't do his homework, and he didn't always pay attention. The only things he liked about school were recess and lunchtime. At recess, he played ball with his ghostly ball, and sometimes he jumped rope. At lunchtime, he went to see Mouse in the lunchroom. Mouse had a happy home under the sink and 9 meals a day, with mashed potato on Monday. Promotion time came. Miss Flower said, "The ghost hasn't done much work, but maybe he's a slow starter. I'll promote him." Gus hoped the second grade teacher, Mr. Hardy, wouldn't know he was there to give him work to do, so he laid his equipment down quietly. But Mouse came along. Taking his exercise before lunch, he stubbed his tiny toe on a clanker, which went clank. Now Mr. Hardy knew about Gus. He told him to do his homework. Gus didn't do his homework. All he wanted to spell was ghost. Why should he bother with such words as yesterday and today? He began to be bored. He hated school. He hated Horrible Harry. Finally, waiting to find out how ghost was spelled, he thought up some pranks to pass the time. First, he coaxed Mouse into Horrible Hardy's desk drawer. Horrible opened the drawer, and out leaped Mouse, hungry for his mashed potato. Everyone screeched until Horrible roared, "Quiet!" Gus liked that commotion. Then he took his bang-clank equipment and marched up and down the halls, banging like thunder and clanking like crazy. He took a drink from the water fountain and squirted water all around. And then, just for fun, he rang the fire alarm. Clang! All over the school. The children marched out. The teachers marched out. Gus marched out. Fire engines came, sirens screaming. This was more fun than spelling. Then the fire chief said, "False alarm." "Who did this?" Miss Flower and Mr. Hardy had heard the bang clanks in the hall. They whispered, "That ghost." So, when promotion time came again, Horrible Hardy said, "That ghost doesn't do his work. He is a troublemaker. He can't go to third grade." "Oh no!" Gus groaned. It never occurred to him that he might not be promoted. He was terribly upset. "People will say that ghosts are real dumb," he thought. "My ghost friends will be ashamed of me. I won't learn to spell ghost, and I'll have horrible again. Well, I'll haunt him." He marched around Horrible Hardy, banging and clanking, but Horrible was used to noisy children, so he didn't mind noisy ghosts. "I'll drop out of school," Gus threatened, but he knew he would never learn to spell ghost at home. Finally, he calmed down. He gritted his ghostly teeth, and he thought, "Okay, if I have to do homework, I'll do homework. One thing I know, I'm going to be promoted next time." So he put his bang clank equipment aside and settled down to do the homework Horrible Hardy gave out. To make sure he was promoted next time, he wrote the new words on the blackboard at night. After a while, he even wrote a sentence with his second grade words. "Yesterday, I played ball." What do you know? That ghost is learning to spell. Horrible Hardy said the next morning. Gus was tired of being called that ghost. "My name is Gus," he yelled, but no one could hear ghostly language. "How can I tell them?" Gus moaned. Then suddenly he knew how. That night he wrote on the blackboard in large letters, "My name is Gus." "His name is Gus," the children said the next morning. "Hi, Gus." Gus was so delighted that he simply had to bang. He was getting somewhere. Then he had another idea. After school, he wrote, "Who is Gus?" He hoped when the children read what he had written, they would write the answer, but they didn't. They just shouted, "Gus is a ghost." His idea hadn't worked. What a disappointment. But after a while he thought, "Well, I am close. What should I do now?" He began to think over all the words he had learned to spell, which ones might help him. That night he went to the blackboard and wrote some words. He erased them. He wrote more words and erased them and wrote more. Finally he finished his sentence. "Will some child in this class put down here what Gus is so I can read it?" The next day, when Mr. Hardy read what Gus had written, he said, "Who can write ghost on the blackboard?" Gus held his breath, but the children couldn't spell ghost either. Ghost was a 6th grade word. Then Mr. Hardy said, "We have a ghost in our class, so we should know how to spell ghost." He went to the blackboard and wrote, "Gus is a ghost." Gus sat there with his mouth open. He couldn't believe it. "That's the way to spell ghost," he said at last. Then he grabbed his equipment and jumped up and down, banging and clanking. He rushed to the lunchroom. "I'm a GHOST, Mouse. Come on home and we'll tell Cora." Mouse went right on munching oatmeal cookies, so Gus ran home to tell Cora that he was a GHOST and ran back to school again. That afternoon, he wrote on the board, "Today I am a happy ghost." Oops. Now he loved school. He even loved Horrible Hardy. He went on writing all the words he could think of. Mr. Hardy said, "Gus can go to third grade." In third grade, Gus learned to spell teacher, and he wrote, "I love my teacher." Now he's in third grade. He learned how to write in cursive. He clanked his way to fourth grade and won a prize for a story called "Mouse Was a Hungry Monster." In fifth grade, his favorite word was Halloween. And in sixth grade, he was the first one to write the word ghost on the board. Now Gus had finished the last grade in that school. But he didn't want to have to leave, so he wrote on the board, Dear teachers and children, I have decided to remain here for 40 years and be the school ghost. Love from your friendly ghost, Gus. The teachers shook their heads. Gus should be out in the world doing a ghost's work. How can we get him to go? Then they said, aha, we'll graduate him. They laid out a graduation gown and hat. Gus tried them on, and they were so becoming that he had to wear them. I'll invite Cora to my graduation, he thought, but what shall I do all day if I leave school? And then he remembered why he had come to school in the first place. He said to Mouse, you may stay and be the school mouse, and Cora may sleep all day. I shall be busy rewriting the story of my life. He walked up the aisle with the graduating class and nodded politely to Cora and Mouse, who sat in the front row. There he goes. A ghost? Who knows how to spell ghost?